An armed squad of elite Prussian soldiers kicks open the heavy wooden doors of a city hall. Following the barking orders of their captain, they storm the building, arrest the mayor at gunpoint, and confiscate every single coin in the city's treasury in the name of the emperor. The captain confidently takes the bags of cash, orders his soldiers to march the arrested officials to a military prison, and calmly walks out the front door. There is just one massive problem. The man leading this military raid is not an officer. He isn't a master thief either. He is a 57-year-old homeless, unemployed shoemaker who bought a used uniform at a second-hand shop just a few hours earlier. This is the story of the captain of Köpenick, the man who hijacked an entire city's fortune without a weapon, simply by proving that people will blindly obey anyone wearing the right clothes. To understand how a homeless ex-convict conquered a city without firing a single bullet, you have to understand the world he lived in. The year is 1906. The place is the German Empire, ruled by Kaiser Wilhelm II. This is not just a country. It is a military machine masquerading as a nation. In Prussian society, a civilian is practically a second-class citizen. The military uniform is absolute, unquestionable law. If a man in an officer's coat walks down the street, civilians step off the sidewalk to let him pass. Policemen salute him. Shopkeepers bow to him. The uniform is not just clothing. It is a manifestation of the emperor's divine will. But Wilhelm Voigt is completely excluded from this glittering world. He is 57 years old. He is hunched, weary, and broken. For most of his adult life, he has been nothing more than a ghost haunting the darkest corners of the empire. Wilhelm is a shoemaker by trade, but he has spent a staggering 27 years of his life behind bars for a string of petty thefts and minor forgeries. His life is a relentless, crushing cycle of misery. When he finally gets out of prison, he genuinely wants to start over. He moves to a small town, finds a job making shoes, and tries to live an honest life. But the German bureaucracy is designed to crush men like Wilhelm. To legally work and reside in a city, you need a domestic passport. Because Wilhelm is a known ex-convict, the police refuse to give him a passport. Because he has no passport, he is officially banned from living in the town. He is fired from his job, evicted from his room, and thrown back onto the freezing streets of Berlin. He is trapped in a Kafkaesque nightmare. He cannot get a job without a passport, and he cannot get a passport without a job. The system has decided that Wilhelm Voigt is garbage. He is supposed to crawl into an alley and quietly starve to death. But Wilhelm decides he is not going to starve. If the system is obsessed with rules, stamps, and paper, he is going to use their own obsession against them. He realizes a profound psychological truth. In a society that blindly worships the authority, no one looks at the man. They only look at the clothes. Wilhelm begins his master plan in the most unglamorous way imaginable, by hunting through the flea markets and second-hand junk shops of Berlin. He doesn't have the money to buy a complete uniform, so he pieces it together like a puzzle over several weeks. He buys a pair of military trousers with the iconic red stripe down the side. He finds an old, slightly faded officer's greatcoat. He secures a pair of polished leather boots, a peaked cap, and a replica officer's sword. The entire outfit is a mismatched, slightly oversized collection of discarded military surplus. It smells of mothballs and damp cellars. But the magic happens when he puts it on. Wilhelm stands in front of a cracked mirror in a cheap rented room. He isn't a starving shoemaker anymore. The moment he buttons the brass up to his neck and puts the peaked cap on his graying hair, his posture changes. His spine straightens. The defeated slouch vanishes. He looks into the mirror and sees a captain of the legendary 1st Foot Guards, the most elite regiment in the entire Prussian army, the personal protectors of the Emperor himself. He is ready to test the ultimate illusion. October 16th, 1906, high noon. Wilhelm Voigt steps out into the bustling streets of Berlin. His heart is pounding against his ribs like a hammer. If a real officer stops him and asks for his identification, he will be sent back to prison for the rest of his life. But something miraculous happens. As he walks down the street, ordinary citizens immediately step aside. A passing policeman snaps to attention and delivers a crisp salute. Wilhelm doesn't even flinch. He casually returns the salute. The illusion is flawless. The psychology of the uniform is working. He walks toward the local military barracks. He isn't trying to hide. He is actively hunting for soldiers. Suddenly, he spots exactly what he needs. A squad of real, heavily armed soldiers marching down the street. They are returning to their barracks after a routine changing of the guard. Wilhelm steps directly into the middle of the street, blocking their path. He puffs out his chest, rests his hand casually on the hilt of his sword, and projects his voice with the absolute, unquestionable authority of a Prussian aristocrat.
Halt!
He barks. The squad instantly stops. Their boots click together.
Turn around.
Wilhelm commands.
You are under my orders now. Follow me.
The squad leader, a seasoned corporal, doesn't ask for written orders. He doesn't ask for a badge. He looks at the brass buttons, the red collar, and the stern face of the captain. He salutes.
Jawohl, Herr Hauptmann.
Yes, Captain. Just like that, a homeless shoemaker has taken command of a fully armed detachment of the German Imperial Army. Before we see how he uses this phantom platoon to hijack an entire city's fortune, take a second to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. It's the absolute best way to support us and make sure you don't miss our next insane historical heist. Done? All right, let's march on Köpenick. Wilhelm leads his newly acquired private army to the local train station. He is so immersed in his role that he even buys their train tickets out of his own incredibly tight budget, using the last few coins in his pocket. He even generously buys them a round of beers during the journey to keep their morale high. Their destination is Köpenick, a wealthy, independent municipality just outside of Berlin. When the train arrives, Wilhelm marches his squad out of the station. He leaves a few soldiers at the entrance with strict orders.
Do not let anyone in or out.
He is securing his perimeter. With the rest of his men, he marches straight to the Köpenick City Hall. The building is filled with bureaucrats, clerks, and police officers. Wilhelm doesn't sneak in through the back door. He kicks the main doors open and marches his heavily armed troops right into the grand lobby. The sound of military boots echoing on the marble floor brings the entire building to a dead silence. Wilhelm orders his soldiers to seal all the exits. He commands the local police officers who are standing in the lobby in utter shock to assist his men in locking down the building. Because he is wearing an officer's uniform, the police immediately obey him, effectively helping a criminal take their own building hostage. Wilhelm marches directly upstairs to the office of the mayor, a powerful and highly respected politician named Georg Langerhans. He kicks the door open. The mayor stands up, outraged.
What is the meaning of this?
Wilhelm doesn't blink.
Mayor Langerhans, by the direct order of His Majesty the Emperor, you are under arrest for suspicion of fraudulent bookkeeping.
The mayor is stunned. He demands to see a warrant. Wilhelm slowly draws his sword, points it at the armed soldiers standing behind him, and says,
These are my orders.
The mayor looks at the soldiers look at the captain. The system of blind obedience kicks in. The mayor bows his head and surrenders. With the mayor locked in his own office under armed guard, Wilhelm demands to see the chief treasurer, von Wildberg. The treasurer is brought in, trembling. Wilhelm demands full access to the city vault to confiscate the funds for a state audit. The treasurer, desperate to prove he is a good and compliant citizen, personally opens the massive iron safe. He starts pulling out canvas bags filled with gold and cash. He counts it all out on the table, right in front of Wilhelm. The total comes to exactly 4,000 marks and 70 pfennigs. This was an absolute fortune in 1906, enough to buy a large house. Wilhelm calmly takes a piece of official city hall stationery. He writes out a formal receipt for the confiscated money, but he doesn't sign his own name. With a stroke of genius and a wicked sense of humor, he signs the receipt with the name of a former prison director he hated. He stamps the receipt with the official city seal, hands it to the trembling treasurer, and has his soldiers pack the massive fortune into canvas bags. Now comes the most brilliant part of the plan. Wilhelm has the money, but he needs to get away before someone realizes this is a complete farce. He orders his soldiers to escort the arrested mayor and the treasurer to the central police headquarters in Berlin. He hires 2 horse-drawn carriages at the city's expense to transport the prisoners. He stands on the steps of the city hall, playing the role of the strict commander perfectly. He tells his squad leader,
Take them to the capital. I will stay here and secure the building. I will follow you shortly.
The soldiers salute. The carriages drive away, taking the hostages, the guards, and any potential threats miles away into Berlin. Wilhelm is left standing completely alone in the conquered city hall with bags full of cash. He orders the remaining local police to guard the doors and let absolutely no one inside for the next hour. Then he calmly walks out a side door. He walks down a quiet street, steps into a dark alley, and begins to undress. He takes off the peaked cap. He unbuttons the grand greatcoat. He leaves the military uniform bundled up in a ditch. When he steps out of the alley on the other side, he is no longer the fearsome captain of the 1st Foot Guards. He is just an invisible, hunched, 57-year-old shoemaker carrying a heavy bag. He walks to the train station, buys a ticket to Berlin, and completely vanishes into the crowds. When the arrested mayor finally arrives at the police headquarters in Berlin, the real military commanders are completely bewildered. They have no record of any such operation. There is no captain, no audit, no orders from the emperor. When they finally realize that a homeless man wearing a junk shop costume just conquered a city, kidnapped its leaders, and stole its entire treasury, the German Empire is plunged into absolute humiliation. The press goes wild. The story instantly becomes global news. Newspapers in London, Paris, and New York print massive headlines mocking the absurdity of the Prussian military machine. The public doesn't demand justice. They erupt into uncontrollable laughter. Plays, songs, and poems are instantly written about the legendary captain of Köpenick. Even Kaiser Wilhelm II, the rigid and terrifying emperor of Germany, is rumored to have laughed out loud when he read the police report, allegedly saying,
That shows you what discipline can do.
Wilhelm Voigt was eventually caught a few weeks later, not by brilliant detective work, but because a former cellmate recognized his methods and snitched on him for the massive reward. But when Wilhelm went to trial, he wasn't treated like a dangerous terrorist. he was treated like a national celebrity. The judge, fighting back a smile, gave him an incredibly lenient sentence of 4 years. He didn't even serve the full term. The public outcry and global fascination with the brilliant shoemaker was so overwhelming that Kaiser Wilhelm II personally signed a royal pardon to release him early. Wilhelm Voigt walked out of prison a rich and famous man. He toured the world, wrote a best-selling autobiography, and even posed for photographs in his famous fake uniform. He died years later, having proven to the entire world that absolute power isn't a magical force. Sometimes, absolute power is just a second-hand coat with brass buttons.